Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Coming at you with a new video segment I'm calling Quick Impressions. This will be about games that I have been playing that I probably not going to review, or I might do a review on it sometime later, but wanted to give you some color commentary based on everything that I've played up to the certain point in the game. So my normal review process is that I play a game to completion, at least from a story aspect. I'm not a big completionist or anything, but I want to get the full breadth and the width of a certain game before I give my full review on it, to give full context on it. So my reviews may come out later than most, just because I want to be able to play it, and I'm kind of a slow player anyway, just based on my schedule. But there are some games that I just want to give you my commentary on, just to let you know what it is I'm feeling about this certain game. So as you can see, I got a game up here called Wavetale. So let's get into it. This is a game that was developed and published by Thunderful Games. It was released in December 12th of 2022. So you may have missed this during the holiday chaos. I know that there was so much that came out during the holiday season. I can't even count how many things came out during the holiday season. But maybe you wish listed this game and you thought to yourself, man, I'll get to it when I get to it, when I get some money for it, and maybe you got some Christmas money. So now is probably a good time to get that off your wish list and pick it up. And I'll give you some reasons why here in just a second. But before we get into that, let's get into a description. And the description says, explore the open sea in the decaying archipelago of Strandville and Wavetale, a story-driven action-adventure game introducing you to a fed-up fisherman, secretive hermits, and maybe a pirate or two. Traverse calm waters and surging waves as Sigrid, a young girl who befriends a mysterious shadow that provides her with the power to walk on water. Speed through the waves, swing yourself from housetops with your net, and defeat monstrous enemies to save the citizens of the islands, all with a little help from the shadows down below, and your cranky grandmother. Excellent description of this game, because everything that is described is what you see in this game. So let me get into some of the things I really like. And right off the bat, the core gameplay aspect of riding on the waves is incredible. I mean, if they didn't hit this out of the park, then this would have defeated the entire purpose of the game. But because your main mechanic is you're riding the waves, you're riding on water, it does it really perfectly. Not only that, the water in this game looks incredible. There's such a smoothness to riding on the waves and jumping perfectly to a platform or grappling between the islands and collecting, that's what are called sparks. So basically sparks are what are powering this very weird, it's not desolate, it's not a desolate wasteland, but it kind of reminds me of Waterworld just a little bit, where most of the world is covered primarily in water, and you're going from island to island by powering certain generators and lighthouses with these spark creatures. So using your electric net to collect sparks and defeat enemies on certain islands. Kind of reminds me of good parts of Sonic. Sometimes when you're going in the flow of being on the water, I wonder if there's a certain section of this game, maybe I haven't gotten to it yet. If you've been playing this game, maybe you have gotten to a section where you're just going and going, because you're just flowing through everything. And once you get into the flow of going between water, and there's some jump points, and you're sliding on pipes, and you're going between islands, it's so smooth once you get right into it. The music and the sound cues are very dynamic in a few ways. If you are just exploring the area or doing side quests, the music is a little bit more relaxed and calm. There's not a whole lot of things going on. It kind of reminds me of just being on water, where water is very calm, and then as it moves and as it gets shifted, as things are going, it becomes more wave-like and dynamic. So I wonder if that's kind of the aspect of what they're going for in this game. But when you're headed towards a quest objective, the music will start to swell, and when you're in the middle of a main quest objective, the music will be a little bit more louder with more rhythm, some horns in it, and maybe a melody or two. No vocals or anything, at least from what I've heard so far. No vocals so far, but there's more rhythm, there's more horns, there's more musical elements throughout being in a quest objective. If there are enemies in the area, there will be this rhythmic alarm that goes off with the music to indicate that enemies are still present. So really interesting to note that if there are enemies available, it will alert you, because if you can't see them, you can still hear them as they're coming, and that will go away once you defeat said enemies. There's also a customization aspect of Sigrid that is really fun. So you collect little bitty green sparks that act as currency throughout this, and you go to a ship piloted by Mr. Baird, if I got that name right. Gotta remember that. But there's a variety of outfits you can get, from hats to hair colors and outfits, all with these small little green sparks, as I said, from defeating enemies or just exploring some of the outskirts of the maps. What's really interesting is that there's no upgrade paths or weapon trees. So this is an action adventure game. You have abilities, you have the ability to, you have a light, you have a heavy, you have a dodge, you have a grapple, and then you have a dash and a jump. And that's all you need, but there's no actual progression on any of this. It's weird. I didn't realize that you couldn't progress in this game. I was waiting for a moment when the tutorial screen popped up and you got more of a weapon tree, or maybe you're going to get more weapons, or maybe there's some sort of augment to your abilities. And at first I was bummed, but I'm like, you know what? This lets me focus on the story. I thought that was really interesting. I really enjoyed the fact that everything that you need is right there. All your tools are available from the get-go, so you don't have to worry about anything else. I really, really enjoy that. It gives me a sense of peace in knowing that I can just go through this game and worry about and just focus on the story and not worry so much about grinding out abilities as I go. Speaking of the story is very engaging. As of right now, I'm very intrigued to see how this world got to the way it was and figure out what happened to some of the key figures mentioned. You are Sigrid, like I said, you're a girl and you're traveling along with your grandma, and there's mentions of other people that have existed. There's mentions of a war. There's even conversations that Sigrid and her grandma have about certain things. Like there's a conversation they have about apples and bagels where Sigrid doesn't know what those are. So that was really interesting to think about, what happened to this world and what happened to the world as we know it and how did it get to this way. So really want to get more into that story as I go. And also Sigrid will collect various items for her scrapbook and journal entries on the characters that you meet on the certain islands. It really helps on the world building. A couple of things to note here is that Sigrid will talk to the shadow that helps you ride on the waves, which gives context to her inner thoughts while she is surfing the waves. So there are moments where you're going between quest and story elements and story beats where you are alone with just the shadow that you're riding the waves on, and she will talk to the shadow as if the shadow is listening, and the shadow doesn't really respond. Again, at least from my gameplay as of right now. I haven't seen anything. Maybe there's something at the end. I have no idea. But it is interesting to see that dynamic between Sigrid and the shadow as they go forth along the waves. Also, I find it weird that it's not a big deal that Sigrid is essentially like Jesus, walking on water and riding the waves. There's a moment where Sigrid talks to her grandma after she gets the ability to walk on water, and her grandma's like, I don't want you going out there. Just don't do it. There's no like acknowledgement of, hey, this is kind of a big deal. There's a character that you do meet later on. It's a fisherman that's wanting to study the shadows, and he is perplexed and surprised by all of that. But all of the story elements and the characters are really good. There's some good voice acting in here as well, specifically the mayor. I didn't think there's a mayor character that has some really good dialogue in it. So yeah, really thought all of those elements were great. Now there's some things that I don't really like as much. The camera can present some issues when grappling or moving at high speeds. You can take a moment to catch up a little bit when you're going so fast and the camera kind of like draws back and tries to catch up with everything that's going on. Didn't happen a lot during my playthrough, but noticed it a couple of times, and maybe not always the best camera work in certain situations. Now graphically, it's not always the best. I played this docked and undocked, and it doesn't really feel as good as I thought it would be. I do like the character faces. The character faces are very expressive in the cutscenes. They move around more. They have human-like elements, so they're not as stale as some of the rest of the body animations. But I do wish some of the lip syncing was a little bit better. It seems off at times where I'm hearing I'm hearing one thing, but I'm seeing another on screen. So the lip syncing could be a little bit better. And the character models sometimes seem to stutter during cutscenes. Like you have a character who's talking and then they have another character off in the distance, almost kind of T-posing, and they're starting to stutter and kind of stutter off the screen. So there's a little bit of technical glitches there. Sometimes the textures take a little bit to pop in from large distances, and the textures on windows, on lighthouses specifically, seem to not be as good as I would want it to be. But again, fairly minor. Again, there's no game breaking bugs overall, but just like performance issues that could be patched if the devs had the margin to do so. I don't know if that's a thing in their future. Again, playing docked and playing it handheld, it was fine either way. But the water, like I said earlier, was one of the best aspects of this game. It's what totally nails it. It's just everything that is not the water, like land or buildings or some of the other character models that aren't main characters, seem to be not as polished graphically. But that's some of my hiccups. But if you happened to miss this game when it came out, you should definitely pick this game up. I would recommend giving Wavetale a shot. While I'm not done, I do plan on completing the game just to get through the story, because like I said, I'm intrigued by the story. From what I've seen, it's fairly short. I think it's about a 4-hour playthrough, and the gameplay loop is fairly easy. It's just going between islands and doing generators, fighting enemies, and then riding along the ways, which I really just want to do the whole time. But it's right now, it's available on the eShop for $29.99. I will put that link in the description. And if you want to get in touch with the developers, you should definitely go to their Discord channel, which I will also put a link in the description to the Thunderful Discord channel as well. Definitely give Thunderful Games your full support. Follow them on Twitter. Definitely pick up Wavetale and anything else that they have coming out in the future. And let me know in the comments what you think about Wavetale. Did you pick it up over the holiday season? Are you going to pick it up after watching this video? Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. My name is Chike, aka It's Basically Fun, and I'll see you next time. Bye.